Draft season is here. Day 3 of Senior Bowl practices have officially wrapped up, and who better to bring on than Dom C, who is down in Mobile. He's covered all 3 practices. We'll give you the latest scoop on all things Senior Bowl and much more, all coming up here on a Monday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, Thursday, January 30th, 2025. I know I said Monday at the top of the show there. I had yesterday off, so I had a feeling, I was just thinking, all right, it's Monday. That's what was in my head. But nope, back for a Thursday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. I'm your host, Connor Long. Appreciate you all tuning in here on the show. Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel and our membership raffle. We'll be doing the raffle tomorrow. Garrett Wilson signed mini helmet, Wanker bet signed football, free item from the merch store, and a channel emoji. Well, there might be one more prize coming. If you guys combine for 50 gifted memberships today, we'll throw in a Nick Mangold signed jersey. So I appreciate you guys, as always, coming off a historic show in NY Flight Jets Talk history yesterday. 110 gifted memberships, our most congruent viewers in show history. You guys are legends. Appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, smash the like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to call into the show, click the pinned comment in the chat. If not, throw your questions. Dom and I will be sure to get to those. But let's bring on our guest for today's episode. It's our guy, Dom C of Talking Jets of Project Prospect. Dom, how is it down there in Mobile?
Connor, another Senior Bowl in the books. Well, technically not really. They still got a couple more days left. The game, they have an off day tomorrow, and the game obviously is on Saturday, but the real meat and potatoes happens between Monday and Thursday down here. So another great week, man. Another great week.
So Dom, you're leaving. I'm assuming tomorrow. You're not hanging around for the game.
No, not gonna make it. Not gonna hang around for the game. I got to get home. So did my work. I was here. I was here on a business trip and made it work. So a great week.
I guess where I'm going to start, Dom, is you've been all over Twitter. You've been interviewing a lot of these guys these past 3 days. I'm sure it's a common question that you've been getting asked, but who are the top guys that really catch your eye, not only for the Jets, just for NFL teams in general, guys you think could come in and make an impact right away on NFL rosters?
There's so many, Connor, but, like off the top of my head, the guys who I think did the most justice for themselves and really utilized this week and we'll see their barring anything that happens, negatively at the combine or before April's draft, the guys who really did enough, gave their stock a biggest boost. I mean, there's tons of them. North Dakota State offensive lineman Gray Zabel, arguably the best player here in Mobile. Small school kid, FCS school, had the size and the length, and people thought, well, maybe don't know at 310 pounds, don't know if he's going to be able to hang a tackle. FCS school, never played the big level of competition, but he came in here, he lined up at all 5 offensive line spots.
Wow!
Started as the starting center for the national team, in the first reps, played all along the offensive line, dominated every single one. There's always, kind of a tenacity in his game film. Listen, call it what it was. He was a big fish in a little pond, maybe
Yes.
out there in North Dakota State, but he hung with the big boys. And there's probably no player here in Mobile that got more buzz than Gray Zabel.
You mentioned Gray Zabel there, Dom C, someone you really honed in on. He's a name I tossed around as a potential second-round pick option for the Jets. I think November it was. I really like the way he plays overall. You mentioned he's the starting center. Isn't he known to be a tackle? Isn't that where he spends the majority of his snaps?
He was a tackle at North Dakota State, but a lot of teams, had wanted him to work inside this week, and there was grumblings leading up to the Senior Bowl that he was going to work at center. And it's funny. Listen, they he has 4 years worth of tape at tackle, and I had, and not to pivot, but, I had a good conversation. I had like a 10, 15-minute conversation with another prospect, West Virginia offensive lineman Wyatt Milam yesterday.
Okay.
And
I saw that.
yeah, and we were chatting, even before we were filming or anything, we were just chatting. And, he also took some snaps at center. And I said, was that planned? He's like, yeah. He's like, it was my plan. He's like, if the scouts, if the coaches want to see me at tackle, they got, 4+ years of film that way. I want to show them the stuff they haven't seen. I want to show them that I can play center if they ask me to. I want to show them I'm congruent in both left and right guard as well. So a lot of players and a lot of teams ask the players to kind of move up and down if the situation serves them right. And Gray Zabel and Wyatt Milam are two guys that are perfect examples. Definitely tackles at college. Definitely could probably hang at tackle. Skill level wise, they probably, they show that multifaceted ability up and down the line, which is something that's you can't really get from everyone. So it's just an extra check mark next to them. So getting back to the point, Gray Zabel was one guy that I thought stood out. Toledo defensive tackle. Darius Alexander. If anyone follows me on Twitter, he's a guy I've been talking about for months. I thought he was another guy coming out of the MAC that people were just sleeping on, and he was dominant. He weighed in a little bit bigger than I expected. He was pushing 315, but it didn't affect his quickness. Didn't affect his get off. He has such a high level, nuanced pass rush bag with his hand fighting and all that stuff. Just real elite level stuff. A guy that can play up and down the defensive line. He could play, even though it might not be his best suit. If you need him to play the nose tackle, he can do that. He could play 3-tech in an odd man front. You could see him at 4-eye at 5. And today they even had him standing up, rushing wide 9. And
wow.
And it caused 2 pressures. So he's a guy on the defensive side. There's so many more. Mike Green, everyone saw the viral clip.
Marshall.
From Marshall, literally just running through Josh Connerly, who's destined to be a first-round pick as well. So, he ended up leaving. He ended up, packing it up last night after 2 dominant days of practice. He measured longer. He weighed in more than what people thought he was, and there was nothing more that he can prove. He did wonders. He solidified himself as probably a high to mid-round first-round pick, Mike Green.
Dom, you spoke a lot about the tackles, whether it was Milam or Zabel. They seem to be the cream of the crop over in Mobile. Where would you rank them overall among tackles in this year's class? Because there's Will Campbell Jr., the tackle out of LSU, Kelvin Banks, the offensive lineman out of Texas, and also, Dom, we know the Jets selected Olu Fashanu with the 11th overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, and it seems like he hopefully will be the left tackle of the future. Right tackle is still an uncertainty for the Jets next season, whether Morgan Moses will come back or not next season. Let's say with the Will Johnsons, Mason Graham, Tet McMillan, Abdul Carter, they're off the board there, and the Jets are looking like out of the Ashton Genty, a Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks. Those are the guys that top their board. Could you see any world where the Jets maybe pull the plug and take a tackle again and potentially the top 10 this year?
To the first part of the question, I got both. It's funny when I went through and graded throughout the year, I graded both Milam and Will Campbell with the interior linemen. I thought that they would be guards at the next level. Campbell's my number 1 guard. Milam was my number 3. Leading up to this week, these rankings don't hold me to them because obviously there's still a lot of things that are a lot more rewatches, a lot more things that are going to change. So that's where I had those 2. To the second part of your question, I'm just not sure if the Jets are going to pick a tackle at 7 again. Listen, anything could happen, I guess, Connor. It's way too early to assume those things, but if you're asking about me and my opinion, I would rather see the Jets address other needs and kind of find that, whether it's a starter, whether it's a backup guy that can develop into a starter later on in the draft. I think the strong point for the tackle class is going to be that round. You're going to still get a guy that can come in and play at a good level and really develop into a better level in those rounds 3, 4, 5 areas.
Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. Yeah, there are a lot of certainly a lot of tackle names to watch. Speaking of addressing other names, Dom, I feel a position that has kind of flown under the radar that the Jets are going to need to address sooner rather than later is the tight end room. Jeremy Ruckert, there's a solid chance that he ends up getting cut. Kenny Aboa is a free agent. Tyler Conklin's a free agent. I don't think Zach Kuntz is an NFL level player. Tyler Warren seems to be the top tight end in this year's class, but let's kind of really focus on the guys down in Mobile. Bowling Green's Harold Fannin Jr., who you actually had the opportunity to speak with earlier today, someone you've been very vocal about. Elijah Arroyo, the tight end out of Miami, who's just had himself a great past few days in Mobile. Who are some of the day 3 tight ends? You think the day 2 or day 3, tight ends you could see the Jets potentially trying to covet unless they want to go ahead and take that big swing and try to bring in Tyler Warren really, really high up in the first round?
Oh, man. I'll tell you, Connor, that this may be the deepest, I should say, tight end class that I've ever studied. There are so many guys, I'm looking right now. I got 8 guys with a day, with a grade that, is equivalent to a, round 1, 2, or 3 pick.
Wow.
And then there's, probably a handful more, who fall in that, that day 3 area. So there's going to be 12 there's going to be 12 tight ends, probably off the board, in the first 4 or 5 rounds. There's so many different styles. There's so many different good players. There might not be a player as, overall elite as Brock Bowers was last year. He was a different prospect. But if you want a guy that can do it all, you can find him. If you want a guy that acts as that that Y, that big slot, and is more of a receiving threat, a la Evan Engram, there's a few of those guys. If you want a guy that can develop and be that 6th lineman type, that true blocker, maybe play a little bit H-back, fullback, they got those types. This class is just chock full of talent up and down the board. One of my favorites here is the Oregon tight end, Terrence Ferguson.
Oh, yes.
He was, really Arroyo from Miami was probably the guy who everyone was buzzing about. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon wasn't that far behind. I think Terrence Ferguson is probably more of a complete tight end prospect. The guy's a vacuum. He caught everything that was thrown his way. I really like the work he did in line too. He's not the biggest guy, just the shade under 6'5", probably pushing about 245, 250 pounds. Not going to, displace defensive lineman when he blocks him, but he's a real intellectual. He's a real smart player. He understands angles. He knows leverage. He knows how to use his body to seal off and wall off at the second level. He's a guy that, might come in and maybe not be all pro right off the get-go, but, kind of along the lines, of a guy. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of an NFL pro who kind of took a little bit of time to get to where he was. I think Ferguson's going to be a good player in this league a long time. If you want that true seam threat, Arroyo has shown up down here. Mason Taylor was also really, really good down here. And I like Mason Taylor. I think he leaves a lot of meat on the bone in terms of his run blocking skills. But, if you pair him up with a solid inline guy, and you utilize him and put him in space and let him get creative with his route running and really use that agility that he has, I think he can be a good pro. Gunnar Helm, who was supposed to be here and backed out in the last minute at Texas, he's probably one of my favorites in the class. I think he's probably the best blocker and going to develop into a really, really good all-around tight end. I wouldn't be surprised if 3-4 years from now, when you look back at this tight end class, that he's sitting at the top.
Dillon Gabriel. He's a really, really interesting prospect, obviously, down there in Mobile. From what I've seen, he seemed to make a lot of throws. He seemed to impress a lot of the media, a lot of the fans down there. The main concern, though, is size. I think they have him at about 5'10", quarterback out of Oregon. Right. Obviously, what do you think his value looks like? Is he a 4th-round guy? Is he a 5th-round guy? Is he a 6th-round guy? Could you see him going potentially any higher? And while the Jets are in the market to get one of those day 3 quarterbacks, day 2 guys, whether it's a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord, and potentially even a Dillon Gabriel, how do you think he could, potentially be viewed as a target for the Jets? And what is his value right now? Because that's one of the, I think, most confusing questions as we enter the 2025 draft.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his value is, to everyone, Connor. Again, it's still so early, and it's really hard to decipher that. I'd be hard-pressed to see him taken before day 3 at some point. I think he's going to be drafted. I have a late 5th round grade on him. That the height and the size is a legitimate concern. There's just not many 5'10" and a half quarterbacks that make it in the league. Drew Brees was an anomaly. Kyler Murray's an uber athlete. Russell Wilson. He managed to do it, but those are exceptions more so than the norm. And you got to also remember, and this is no shade. Like I thought Dillon Gabriel was fine. I thought he was really good this down here. He got better, as all the quarterbacks did. They got better as the week went on. Dillon Gabriel was pinpoint accurate from the line of scrimmage to 15 yards down the field. He did have some trouble locating and really honing in on those deep passes. And being a lefty kind of throws everything off.
Yeah.
We don't want to admit that, but the protection changes. The strong side or the play side, action changes because he's throwing from a different side. The way the ball spins out of his hand is completely different for the receiver. So there's all that stuff that goes into it, which is going to work against Gabriel. Again, I think he's going to get drafted. I'm not saying he's not, but I'd be hard-pressed to see him, go anywhere before day 3.
Everyone smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We greatly appreciate all your support here on the show. If you have any questions for Dom and I, throw them in the chat. We'll get to those shortly. And our membership raffle leaderboard down below. You guys have been so generous. Greatly appreciate it. The raffles tomorrow. Garrett Wilson signed mini helmet. Wayne Corbett signed football. Free item from the merch store and a channel emoji. But if you guys combine for 50 memberships today, we'll throw this Nick Mangold signed jersey in there as well. Follow Dom at DC under NY Jets on Twitter. Great draft analysis. One of the best draft analysts you will ever find out there. We really appreciate all your support. Dom, you pretty much broke down the tight ends. Another position of need here, safety. I know Xavier Watts in Notre Dame is a really, really solid guy to look for in the 2nd round. He actually, if I'm not mistaken, he opted out for the week of practice. So you guys haven't seen him?
No, he wasn't here. As a matter of fact, I could be wrong on this, so I'm not sure if he ever accepted an invite and then backed out. He just might have never accepted the invite. But yeah, I mean, listen, he not necessarily a 2nd rounder. I could see him going as high as the top 10. If we're speaking honest, Xavier Watts, the safety, the free the ball hawking free safety, Ed Reed style. Safety, he backed out because Notre Dame just played until last.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I said Xavier Watts.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Malachi Starks. I apologize.
No. Yeah, Malachi Starks. Oh no, you're good. Starks is from Georgia. Yeah, I said Watts from Notre Dame.
I'm sorry. I thought you said Starks. Watts from Notre Dame. He did bail out like a lot of the guys in Ohio State and Notre Dame did. There was a couple of them here. Jack Kaiser, the linebacker from Notre Dame, decided to come. Riley Leonard, the quarterback from Notre Dame, decided to come. I don't remember seeing any Ohio State guys, but I digress. Watts is an intriguing one. When you talk about ball skills, when you talk about that true, like I said, Ed Reed style, free safety type. I mean, that's Xavier Watts. He leaves a lot to be desired in his run fits and his angles and stuff like that. But that's stuff that I think can be worked on and coached out. You can't, you're hard pressed to find a guy with his skills, that his ball hawking skills. He's got like really, really elite speed. He's got the ability to flip his hips and run. He's not afraid. Like, he's a physical player. He's not afraid to get dirty. He just needs, a little fine tuning and stuff in terms of, the way he approaches the run fits, and, kind of needs to bear down sometimes and buckle down and break down before he tackles. He kind of like is a shot out of a cannon and with his head down at times, which leads to a lot of missed tackles.
Tom, two more things here for you before we get into the chat.
Sure.
Ted McMillan, someone not down in Mobile. He's someone I've watched a lot of the guys. I've watched 2 games on most of these first-round prospects, and Ted McMillan is someone who really caught my eye. There's a strong chance I don't think he's there at 7, if I'm being completely honest. But I think if he's there at 7, given the uncertainty with the Jets wide receiver room, I think he would be a great pick. Talk about someone who has great body control. I think I had him at 6'5", 212 is his exact height and weight. Like I said, insane body control. Generational hands. His route running could use a little work. He's an okay run blocker. Dom, thoughts on Ted McMillan? Obviously, he's not down there in Mobile, but what is your analysis on McMillan here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's daunting when you think about it physically. Yeah. I mean, the way he moves for a guy who's 6'5" plus, 210 pounds plus is is really intimidating. He's super strong. He's got ridiculously strong hands, huge catch radius, very, very good with the ball in his hands in terms of forcing missed tackles and, in terms of, running and having that contact balance. I think that, the long speed isn't going to be his forte. He's a little bit of a long strider, big guy. I'd be surprised if he runs anything past the mid 4.5s, which some people are going to ding him for. But listen, if he can show and he can prove at the NFL level that he can get off press man coverage on the outside, and you're not going to have to force his release by either putting him in motion or putting him in the slot, then I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be a top 10 worthy pick. He's a red zone threat right off the get-go with that size and those hands. And like I said, he's tough to bring down. He does struggle to separate, kind of bigger, longer, lankier guy, long strider. So he doesn't have that short area quicks that, the modern day receivers usually strive with. So, he's going to have some challenges, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to be there at 7. I think that there's a possibility that he will be, and really, turning this more so to the Jets, to a Jets focus as opposed to an overall prospect focus. Wide receiver is one of those areas that, depending on what happens with Devontae Adams, could be really climb up the ladder in terms of needs. So, would I be upset if he was the pick at 7? No. Am I pounding the table for him at 7? I'm not sure yet. That's still be determined depending on, who else is on the board. He's not the first guy that I would pound the table for.
Dom, one more question here before we get into the chat. If you have any questions for us, throw them in the chat. We'll be sure to get to those. Just a few, just one quick thing here. A few day 3 guys who were actually down at the Shrine Bowl. I was just wondering if you had any notes on them. All good. If not, 2 guys who caught my eye. Tonka Hemingway, the interior defensive lineman for South Carolina, and safety Ray Mickens, who actually met with the Jets down in Arlington. Ray Mickens, son of Ray Mickens, former Jet there. I think he's a really interesting player when it comes to the safety position. And then obviously Hemingway, the interior defensive lineman from South Carolina. Any thoughts on those 2 guys?
Yeah, Hemingway's an interesting prospect. I think he's a little one note. He's going to weigh in, a hair under, 295 pounds, unless he's really, hitting the weights and hitting the kitchen between now and, the combine. I think he played at about 290. He's low, he understands leverage. He plays low center of gravity. He understands the leverage battle. I think he's a good, crafty type pass rusher. I'd like to see him hold up better in the run, really maintaining his rush lanes and be able to stack and shed blockers a little bit better. Don't know. I don't have a draftable grade on him. I have him as possibly as a UDFA.
Okay.
Just based on the fact that, he's really one note, but listen, he's a guy that you might want to, take a stab with late in the draft and kind of develop. Maybe he can come in certain, nickel and dime situations and help affect the pass rush from the middle while he, develops some of that, gets a little bit stronger, gets a little bit stronger and learns how to play the run a little bit more disciplined. So that's Hemingway. Now, RJ Mickens is interesting. I got a day 3 grade on him.
Okay.
He's got the bloodlines. He went. Yes, we met with him at
Shrine Bowl
a bunch. He's kind of got a lot of starts under his belt. He's probably got about 20 starts. He's been a player. He's been a letter winner down there. Mostly on special teams early in his career. He's got the build. He understands the game. He's a real smart player. A lot of good play recognition. Understands how to read wide receiver splits and read quarterbacks' eyes and do all that stuff that you want your safeties to be able to do. He's a physical kid. He plays a lot more physical than even his old man did. I just don't know if he's got that athletic ceiling that teams are going to covet. So he's going to need to learn a little bit how to play less hands-on, especially when he's in man coverage, when he's asked to, guard those tight ends and those slots and stuff that he's up in the box with. He's a little grabby, a little handsy. And he's just got a little bit of a lower athletic ceiling than the most. Again, he would be for me a back end of the safety room kind of guy, a guy that maybe you can develop, just like we did with Tony Adams.
For those wondering who the Jets have met with, this is courtesy of Dom here. Fills out a Google Sheet form every year to see who the Jets have met with. So these are all the prospects the Jets have met with thus far.
Obviously, there's going to be a lot more added. I got more intel from the Senior Bowl here. Now, listen, full disclosure, the prospects kind of run the gamut and they meet and talk to all the teams, but there's definitely more interest. There's definitely guys that interview multiple times with teams, and I just haven't had a chance to input that. That's my flight home. That's the work I'll be doing.
Everyone, if you have any questions for Dom and I, throw them in the chat. We'll be sure to get to those. We'll start things off here. The guy Zachary Berner, channel member, comes in and says, what wide receiver would Dom C want from the Senior Bowl? Just one, and where would you draft him? Dom, Jaden Higgins, I heard was the name. I think day 1 is the day he kind of came in and made a statement. Any wide receivers down there who impress you?
There were so many. The 2 Iowa State kids were really good. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Both completely different types of wide receivers, but you can tell they came in here ready to work. Both of them so nuanced in their routes, so crisp in their running, sink their hips and break. Now, Higgins is a lot bigger than Noel. Higgins is 6'3", 200 pounds. He's your prototypical X. Not trying to throw an NFL comp, but think Cortland Sutton. That type of receiver. That's Higgins. Whereas Jalen Noel's a lot different. He's going to be your move guy. He's going to be your flanker. He's going to be the guy that comes in motion. He's, the guy who's got the short area quickness, the real precise route running. Think along the lines of Garrett Wilson. Again, not comparing, not comping him to Garrett Wilson, but that type of receiver. Completely different than Higgins. Both of those guys were dynamite. But maybe, and I'm not saying anything new here. You guys watch YouTube or you guys watch Twitter. You saw it. Probably the one most impressive guy all Senior Bowl was the Oregon receiver Tez Johnson. He was just flat out uncoverable, and there hadn't been anybody since Tank Dell, and I think even more so than Tank Dell, who moved quite as well, who was as fast and quick in and out of his breaks, who got separation more here this week than Tez Johnson. Problem is he's 155 pounds.
Like a twig.
To answer Zach's question, I really like the size profile and the schematic fit that Higgins would bring, opposite of what we already have in Garrett. I think it'd be a good compliment.
Our guy Allen coming in, read that Iowa's Sebastian Castro has performed well down in Mobile. Do you see him playing this in the slot or at safety? Dom, take it away.
Yeah, so Castro played well. In the first couple of days, he was, and listen, in fairness, like the safeties and the running backs really don't get a chance to show off, because most of the stuff most of the real meat and potatoes happens with the one-on-one drills, which is the offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and the wide receivers and cornerbacks. The safeties do get to match up against the tight ends, but it's such a disadvantage being off the ball with the tight end who gets a two-way break on everything. So it's not, they're not pressed up on him or anything like that. But Castro worked solely with the safeties, which I thought was interesting. I thought he had the ability to really fall in and play both. Maybe that, that post, that rover position, similar to what Brian Branch plays in Detroit, where sometimes he's slot, sometimes he's in the post, so on and so forth. Castro's a little bit older of a prospect, but man, he plays like his rear end is on fire. So he's always going. He understands route concepts and route, and he's got really, really high end route recognition. He can click and close and break on balls, read the quarterback's eyes real well. Again, another guy who might be limited as an athlete, and really that ceiling being 24 by the time the draft comes around is going to hurt him a little bit. So yeah, that's Castro in a nutshell.
All right, let's keep it going. Dom, similar to Zach's question earlier, Kukovic Jet fan says Engstrand's basically the Jets OC with Shaw going to Detroit. Which wide receiver would fit that type of Detroit scheme? Dom, I don't know if you're too familiar with the Detroit's offensive scheme, but anyone that comes to mind from Kukovic Jet fans? Question here.
Listen, I think Tet McMillan could play the Amon-Ra St. Brown role. I think Emeka Egbuka would really fit in that Amon-Ra St. Brown role. He's a guy that Egbuka is a guy that I really like. I think he's my second ranked wide receiver in the class. I have him. I'm a little higher on him than a lot.
What about Luther Burden? Do you have him just below?
Yeah, I got Luther Burden below Egbuka in my rankings, who I think is also really good. He's a jitterbug man. He's got inside outside versatility, whereas Egbuka is more going to be primarily slot. He's got the size. I think he can hang outside, but he's going to do his damage being that safety valve and real smart, intelligent receiver, knows how to find the soft spots in the zone. So that's the guy. If you're kind of trying to remake that Detroit offense, you've got JMO Williams, who's your speed guy on the outside. You got more of a possession kind of go-to guy, in the X, and then you have that big slot focal point. I'd say Egbuka would be that big slot focal point if you're trying to remake that Detroit offense. Curious to see how much of that Engstrand tries to utilize. I think the more important thing, if you're going to try to mimic that offense, is to figure out how to utilize the two-headed monster in the backfield and really get the Jets version of Jamar Gibbs in space and let him work.
Our guy BK, but nothing but Nets pod. Our guy Gary comes in and says, just tuning in. Ask Dom about Jahad Barron, please. Dom, any thoughts on Barron here?
Yeah, I love Barron. I got I got an early second round grade on Barron.
Okay.
He's the fifth cornerback in my class. I think he's in my rankings. I think he's going to be a slot only guy in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to have, the long speed or the makeup speed to hang outside, but he's done a little bit of everything at Texas. He's played some post safety, he's played some free safety. Then they moved him down into the slot, and then this year he played the boundary and did it very well. A little bit shorter at 5'11", and not going to have those long arms. So press could be an issue. Getting hands on guys and really playing physical press man might not be his forte in the NFL. But you put him in a think of our old defense, Connor, the cover four, the cover four base that Robert Saleh and Ulbrich ran. Barron is fit. He's got those zone eyes. He understands. He anticipates very well. I think he's very physical. I think he can play the run very well in the perimeter. So Barron's going to probably go, in the late first. I could see a team like Washington really taking advantage of a guy like Barron. I could see Baltimore using a guy like him. Maybe he sneaks into the second round and he becomes a fit for one of those teams that miss out on a cornerback, in the first 5 picks of the first round. So Barron's a real good player.
Next up, Dano. Dano says, Dom, who do you think totally proved what you thought about them on film out of the water by seeing them in person? Like, whose tape didn't do them a justice the most?
Let me read that again. Who do you think totally proved what I thought about it on film? I'll tell you. One guy that I was very high on, very much higher than the majority of any other, scout draft analyst, was the offensive lineman at LSU, Miles Frazier. Okay. He's a top 40 player on my board. He graded out as one of the better interior offensive linemen, and he showed just that. Mm-hmm. Rep after rep, there was barely a rep that he lost down here in Mobile. He got so much praise that some of the NFL teams asked on day 3 today that he kicks outside to tackle to see if he can also handle that. And he dominated there as well. So happy to say that Miles Frazier has always been one of my guys. The consensus had a mid day 3 grade on him, and I had a top 45 selection on him. So he's proved that. On the flip side of that, who was a guy that I was higher on that really didn't show up or didn't show out well? Man, that's tough. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I you know what? I'll say I was probably a little bit higher on Wyatt Milam. He didn't really. He played bad. He didn't live up to my expectations of standard. He's a guy that I graded out with a first round grade as a tackle. And again, to his credit, he didn't play any tackle. He played all inside, which he admitted to me was all new to him by his choice. And he struggled at times. So again, not saying that he was bad or he is bad or he's going to be bad. I think for a fact of the matter, he's going to be a plug and play 10-year type NFL starter. But he didn't. I expected a little bit more of a dominant performance. That he was kind of up and down.
Dom, I know we only have about 10 more minutes left, 10, 15 more minutes left with you. So let's rapid fire through these final. What'd you say?
I said, go ahead. Shoot away.
Yeah, appreciate it. Dennis Gorman, channel member, comes in and says, Dom, I want a giant man on the O-line who's anywhere between 6'7", 6'9", 330 pounds. Do any names come to mind?
Yeah. Ariante Ursary, the tackle out of Minnesota, fits that bill. I thought he was, I thought he was a little bit better than I expected. He's a guy that kind of played a little bit better than I expected. He's a little bit stiff. There was a lot of questions if he was going to be able to hang outside in the NFL. He might be one of those tackles that moves inside. He fits that bill at 6'6", 330. I thought he did a really good job. He played inside and outside. So, if you're looking on just, size and length, that's one. A guy that was super impressive all week long was Ozzie Trapillo, 6'7.5", about 315 pounds. He's a little bit lighter, but he's long. He was dominant, man. I really, really was impressed by Trapillo. He's 6'7.5", so he's going to battle the leverage. He's going to lose the leverage battle a lot of times. He's got to, figure out how to, really work and sink those hips and bend those knees. So he's not out leveraged at the NFL level. But he's a guy that fits that size and that length matter. I like him as a right tackle, I think, but he played a lot of left tackle here and really showed out here down in Mobile.
All right, let's see what else Zach coming back in. No one ever talks about Colton Loveland, tight end from Michigan. What do you think of him, Dom?
Colton Loveland's being slept on, man.
Okay.
He's dynamite. He is absolute dynamite. I think he's destined, you can almost write in ink that he's a first round pick. Big guy, almost 6'6", almost 250 pounds. He runs he runs his routes like a wide receiver. Just turned 21 years old. He was a focal point of the offense last year with J.J. McCarthy. He struggled with the lack of quarterback play at Michigan this year and much more of a run-heavy offense. So his numbers really didn't reflect what he could have. Again, I told you Gunnar Helm, I think, is a guy that 4 years down the road we could look back and see as the best tight end in this class. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's Loveland. I like, he's a guy that I think, if he falls to Denver, could come in and be, the Jimmy Graham version for Sean Payton there in Denver.
Interesting. So you think Loveland from Michigan getting first-round pick hype there from Dom C. Certainly a name to watch in the upcoming NFL draft. Kaden comes in and says, Dom, what do you think of Xavier Restrepo from Miami?
Restrepo, yeah. He had a nice week. He was a real benefactor of that wide open offense that Miami had and Cam Ward's real dominant season. He's a guy, he's small. I'd say he's pushing 5'10". I'd say he's pushing 190 pounds. So he's going to be, he's going to be, slot specific. But he's a possession slot guy. Like he knows how to get open. He's got reliable hands. Not going to force a bunch of missed tackles, but if you need that true safety valve in the slot, think about, the Wes Walkers of the world. Think about a much more athletic Wes Walker, and I think that's what you're going to get in a guy like Xavier Restrepo. I don't see him, listen, he's got a fourth round grade for me, a day 3, fourth round grade for me. I think that's probably where he's going to fall, but if he bounce up into the third round because, a team really likes, that skill set and what he can bring, I wouldn't be, it wouldn't floor me that way.
A few more questions here before we let Dom go. Dom, Jimmy Jets wants to know what you have here on Charles Grant, the tackle.
William & Mary, listen, I didn't get to see him. He was one guy that I was interested in seeing down here. He never made it down. So there's a lot that I just don't know. I know he's got the size, 6'4.5", over 300 pounds. Again, smaller school, William & Mary, dominant at that level. So I would have loved to see him play against, some of these Power 5 guys. I question if he's going to stay at tackle. Usually a lot of these smaller school guys end up making the move inside. But, when you talk about length and athleticism, I think he's got it. His frame is stout. He's got an NFL. He could probably could even pack on a little bit more weight onto that frame. He plays with aggression. He's a mean finisher. I would have liked to see what he can do at, against better competition, which unfortunately, for one reason or another, he bailed out and you didn't see it, on the limited film, because I just don't get my hands on a lot of William & Mary film. You saw some upper body deficiencies. Needs to get stronger. He's probably a developmental guy, whether he stays inside or whether he stays a tackle or whether he moves inside. Probably a guy that you hope to groom to be a lineman of the future, more of a pipeline guy for me.
One more question left for you, Dom, and then we'll end with a fun one. Taylor comes in and says, "Dom, what do you think of Nick Amanowari?" I'm trying to get this right. It's still January.
Iman Worry, yes.
Okay, there we go. I was close enough, Dom. What do you have on him?
He's fun, man. He's a fun watch. He's a big son of a bitch. He's gonna measure out probably 6'3", 6'4", probably about 230 pounds. He's the size of a linebacker. In the jet scheme, they probably would convert him, the old jet scheme, I should say. They'd probably convert him into a linebacker. He's of that Jamien Sherwood and Fred Warner kind of skill set and build. But for a guy that big, man, he's a physical specimen, obviously, and he's a hard hitter, but he can move, man. And for a guy that big, he's got some natural ball skills. He's a work in progress in coverage. But he understands He understands concepts. He's much better in zone than he is in man. He's athletic. He's big. He's strong. There's not a lot that not to like about Nick Emanwari's game, other than some teams he's gonna check out, or he's not gonna fit the bill of what they're looking for in their safeties, because he's not that small, super twitchy athlete. He's much more of the mold of Jeremy Chin, if you will.
Dom, really appreciate you hopping on. Means the world. Hope you had a great time in Mobile. We'll end with this fun one from our guy Dano. Dom, how many times has Jeremy clogged the toilet? We have a pool going.
that I don't know, Dano. I don't know if it happened at all. Jeremy he's a pleasure to be down here with, man. He got a lot out of it. He learned a lot. He helped me a lot. So I was happy to be here with him.
Dom, like I said, appreciate you hopping on. Means the world. Have fun with who you Gunny and Green Bean on the Thursday thick of it tonight.
Gunny and Green Bean on the Thursday thick of it on Green Bean Jets Fan channel 8 to 10. We'll be there.
Dom, appreciate you hopping on as always. You got any final thoughts? And let everyone know where they could find you if they haven't already.
Yeah, no. Listen, I try to be real active on Twitter. You can find me at DC_NY Jets. My own content channel, Project Prospect with Dom C, where now I'm going to start pushing out a lot more content and a lot more live stuff, a lot more, in the weeds breakdowns of these projects. Got some stuff lined up with some other like-minded guys. Listen, I'm just trying to do everything I can to be the focal point and the go-to for all your draft needs in the Jets community, man.
Dom, appreciate you hopping on as always. Have a great night.
All right, Connor, my pleasure, man. Be good.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dom C checking in. Follow him on Twitter at DC_NY Jets. The best draft analysis you will find on the internet. Appreciate you all sticking with us. Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I'll stay on here a little longer. Answer your questions. Take your calls if you want to call into the show. Click the pinned comment in the chat. Your support means a ton. I'm going to throw a poll in here because this is an idea that floated around my head yesterday. I was off from school. I was thinking about the afternoon. It was about the afternoon before I went on with you guys last night, which was historical show in NY Flight Jets Talk History. Can't thank you guys enough. And this crossed my mind. I was thinking, what if we did? So this is going to be our second draft on NY Flight Jets Talk. Last year I was sick for the draft, which is terrible. So I came on coughing up a storm. But this year I'm planning on hopefully being fully healthy with no sickness for the draft. And it feels like we were still last year, we were still in the building phase. We were still in the, kickstarting this channel when it came to the NFL draft last year. But now we're still trying to grow the community, but we have more of an established audience, which I can't thank you guys enough for. And smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, which is completely free, helps us grow this stuff tremendously. So please do that. Like I said, if you haven't already. But this just crossed my mind. I was like, hey, what if we don't do watch parties for games? Because I think that's a little too hectic with the delay, and then I'm like an animal during the games and all that. We don't do watch parties for the games. We don't do for like the other NFL games either. So I was like, hey, this could be our first ever NY Flight Jets Talk watch party. We could do it for the whole first round of the NFL draft, and we can bring on a ton of guests like Dom C, Andrew Fialco, Robbie Sabo, Michael Nania, hopefully like Jake, all these other content creators, Gunny, all these legends, all the beat reporters, trying to get them on. So what would your thoughts be if we were to put together like a draft, an NY Flight Jets Talk draft spectacular with all these guests and make it a watch party? I'm going to throw a poll in the chat. Would you guys be interested in a draft watch party with a ton of guests for the full first round? I'm going to throw in the chat. Yes, I will be sure. All right, the poll is pinned at the top of the chat. Vote on that. 42 of you guys here in the building on YouTube. We have 41 likes, so hit the like if you haven't already. Your support means a ton. 4 votes already. 4 of you say yes. Please vote at the pinned comment in the top of the chat. I would love to see what you guys have to say here. I'll stay on a little longer. Throw any Jet questions you guys have in. I'll hit those if I can. Luppy in the house. Luppy says, "Hey Connor." Luppy, good to see you. Appreciate you tuning in. Good point here by Zachary. I had no idea it was on tonight, actually. Zachary comes in. He says the Shrine Bowl is on tonight. Is on at 8 p.m. on NFL Network, just to let anyone know who wants to watch. Zachary, I completely really appreciate you letting us know, because I would have completely forgot here about the Shrine Bowl. So I appreciate you as always. Joshua was a fan of the Draft Watch Party. Let's go. Vote at the top of the poll. 16 votes. 94% of you say, yes, I will be sure to tune in. 6% of you say you don't want to tune in. Please vote on that if you haven't already. Your feedback means a ton here on the show. So please vote at the top of the poll. 43 of you in the building, only 17 votes. Only 18 votes now. 95 of you would watch. So 19 votes now. Please vote at the top of the poll if you haven't already. Completely free, and your feedback means a ton here on the show. David says absolutely, Connor. Even if one doesn't watch the entire draft live part, even if one doesn't watch the entire draft live party live, it would be an excellent reference of information for once the draft is over. David, our Lions fan, appreciate you tuning in. As always, I think you have 11 raffle tickets in tomorrow's raffle. If you want to add to those, feel free to do so tonight. Remember, still on 50 memberships. You guys come up with by the end of the show combined. You guys combine for 50 memberships by the end of the show. We're gonna add that Nick Mangold jersey. Appreciate you as always. Caden says, when do you expect an OC hire, Connor? LOL. By the weekend. I think not by the weekend, excuse me, by Monday. Over the weekend. I think they'll officially hire Angstra on Saturday or Sunday. Dano says biggest content night of the year, so make sure you get people locked in early. Last year's the best. That's why I put it in tonight, Dane. That's why I threw it in the chat. Still 20 votes, 95 say I'll tune in. 37 of you in the building. So please vote. Support means a ton here on the show. That's why I threw it in there. I was like, hey, I want to get the pulse here early. And another place where you could drop some feedback is in our Discord, which is a great time. Free to join. Join that down below if you haven't already. Appreciate you as always. Luppy says, Connor, this is the Jets' favorite time of year. Of course you need a draft party, Luppy. Appreciate you. 95 of you say get a draft party, so we'll do it. Keep voting. I want to see what the rest of you guys have to say. Caden thinks an OC Ire's in the building tomorrow. Wow. Good to see it. Our guy Jojo Townsell comes in. I think that's your future career. You could be the next Connor Rogers with draft content. Well, Jojo, appreciate it. I don't know I think you're maybe talking to Dom. Clarify here. Clarify here, please. Jimmy says, wait, what was that about the jersey? Are you referring to the Nick Mangold jersey? I said, if you guys combine for 50 memberships between right now and the end of the show, that will be added into our raffle tomorrow as an additional prize. So you guys combine for 50 in this limited time here. Another 10, 15 minutes, we'll throw that jersey in. 50 memberships, though, you guys need to combine for. Appreciate you as always. Jojo, clarify if you were talking to me or Dom here. I'm assuming you were talking about Dom. I'm sure Dom appreciates it. I'll let you know that you said that for sure. Caden says, I hate seeing us get staff at school. Oh well, can't even watch it. It certainly is annoying. As someone who is in school a lot, it is certainly annoying. Very annoying. Oh my god. Nick Mangold jersey, welcome. Welcome to our membership raffle, because Jimmy Jets is an absolute legend. 50 gifted memberships. Jimmy, you're a goat. I appreciate you as always, my man. You come through for the people. Wow. Now the Nick Mangold jersey has been entered into our raffle. Thank Jimmy Jets. We had 110 gifted memberships last night, but this is the first time, and a lot of them were 20 spots and 10 spots. This is the first time we have 50 gifted memberships. We have to, I'm trying to get it. I wish I had it. I was downloading the can't wait sound before the show, but I didn't get it in the StreamYard in time. I was going to play that. I was going to play all these different clips. This doesn't do it justice, but I got to give it. Jets. Jimmy Jets coming through with 50 gifted memberships. Instant legend here. Instant legend. Jimmy says just take off the hat. You want it? My hair's a mess. I don't care, though. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. You want me to take off the hat here? I'll do it. Anyone, like I said, my hair's a mess, but you get 50 memberships, you have the right to dictate if I wear a hat or not. So I'm gonna, as you can see, a complete mess right now, but I will Jimmy wants the hat off. He gets it off for 50 gifted channel memberships here. 50 gifted memberships for Jimmy Jets for the first time in show history. I don't even know what to say to you, Jimmy. You're a goat. You're a goat. That's 50 more raffle tickets for you. So, okay. Jimmy says, okay, put it back on, LOL. You got it. I'll put the hat back on, Jimmy. You dictate what my if I wear a hat or not now for the rest of the show, because you're a goat. Appreciate you guys. Caden W here. Caden. Appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys. 50 freaking gifted memberships on the show. Well, Nick Mangold jersey. Is planning on saving it for next month? Well, not too fast. Jimmy Jets wants that Nick Mangold jersey. Let's try to update that. Let's update the ticker down below. So you're at 69, 79, 89, 99, 109, 129. You now jump ahead of Jeffrey R. You're now in first place in our raffle for the 129 gifted memberships. Go. I'll update that at the end of the show. Appreciate you big time. Jimmy says, what can I say? I like seeing the kid happy. Well, you know how you can make me happy now, Jimmy. I like I said, words don't do it justice. I can't thank you guys enough. I really can't. So the Nick Mangold jersey is officially in our raffle now. Thanks to the man, the myth, the legend, Jimmy frickin' Jets, baby, who's in first place now on our membership raffle. Dano comes in, makes a good point. Connor, you need the Connor Long emoji, brother. Yes, I've been very bad with the channel emojis. I have like some of the just content creators. I gave them all emojis. I have to update them. I'm going to throw some like Aaron Glenn ones in there. I'll give some of the main listeners, like Jimmy's getting emoji. I don't care if he doesn't win tomorrow. If he doesn't win the channel emoji in our raffle tomorrow, he's still getting an emoji because he's gifted the most memberships this month and he's an absolute legend. We're going to get Glenn emojis, Muji emojis, Garrett Wilson, all the main players. So we'll get those in soon. For sure. Jojo is talking about you, Connor. Jojo, I've never gotten that before for my draft analysis, but I really appreciate you and I really appreciate all your support. So you're a goat and I can't thank you enough. Really cannot thank you enough for the support. And says Dom could be your mentor. Dom C, Connor Long tag team for draft coverage. Would love it. Hopefully he can come on our draft mega cast spectacular, whatever you want to call it. Is 96% of you guys would love to tune in. 36 in the building. So vote on that if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys as always. Get your final questions in. We're going to wrap up here soon. 50 gifted memberships. 50. From Jimmy freaking Jets, baby. From Jimmy Jets. 50 gifted memberships. Vote at the top of the poll, at the top of the chat if you guys want to, get your voice heard in what we do for our draft party. Get your final thoughts in the chat. We'll end with this one from Cuca Lake Jet fan unless someone else throws a comment in here at the buzzer. Says, you see the Jets going after Hooker from Detroit to possibly play an Engstrand system. Cuca, this is a move I have been talking about for a long time now. For a super long time. They bring in Aaron Glenn, not even Engstrand, not even considering that. Do they target Hendon Hooker? I would say no, just because that offensive coaching staff clearly I don't think had any faith in Hendon Hooker. The fact that they signed Teddy Bridgewater right before the playoffs, and when Jared Goff went down for a drive, they didn't even put Hendon Hooker. They didn't even put Hendon Hooker in. They decided to put Teddy Bridgewater in, who they just signed a few weeks ago. So they clearly had no faith in Hendon Hooker. I don't think he's taken an NFL snap in the regular season. He's been through injuries. He was a day 3 pick. It's a name I tossed around, but I do not think he's not a name I would anticipate the Jets coveting. Caden says he should do a stream where you break down the Jets cat room. We'll be sure to do that as the free agency becomes closer. Yeah, Jimmy. What was I going to say? Dano says, not Jimmy, excuse me. Dano says, did it award the memberships to anyone? I'm on mobile. No, YouTube is broken. With us smaller channels, the ones that aren't at like 10 or 15,000 subscribers yet, it hits a ceiling with memberships. So they'll get distributed some point later today or later tomorrow. But they will be distributed at some point. It's just super annoying that YouTube doesn't let us do that anymore. David D, our Lions fan. I think it's more likely the Jets sign Carlton Davis than the Jets trade for Hendon Hooker. I completely agree because Carlton Davis, the Jets are in need. I expect not only is he more quality player, he's a cornerback. The Jets need a cornerback too next season. So Carlton Davis, certainly a free agent name I could expect the Jets to covet, especially when you instill Aaron Glenn's defensive system. I'm assuming he's someone who fits that scheme. I know Steve Wilkes is calling plays. However, it's still Aaron Glenn's scheme. Steve Wilkes is just helping call plays over there. So, yeah, Carlton Davis is certainly a free agent name I could expect the Jets to covet. Okay, David D gets me here. The Lions fan. Connor Hooker takes snaps in the fourth quarter in the Lions blowouts over the Cowboys, Titans, and Jaguars. But my point is, has never had an NFL start before. Caden, Steve Wilkes ran a 4-3 in San Francisco. By the way, he actually got fired too because of his aggressiveness on blitzing. That's one of the main reasons he got fired too. So that's important to note. Jimmy says give New England a 6 for Milton. I'm not a fan of. Depends. Is he a starter or is he a backup or third string? If he's a starter, no way, Jose. Backup or third string, you give up a 6 for him, you can sell me. Certainly not as a starter, though. Luppy with the hardest question in the world. Connor's Aaron, our quarterback next season. It's basically a coin flip, Luppy. Right now, with no adjusted contract, his mentality of not wanting to learn a new offensive system, I would say no. If he takes a pay cut, the meeting goes well with Glenn. I could see him, Glenn and Muji looking and saying he's our quarterback. So today, current contract, current everything, no, but a surplus of things, he's willing to agree with. There's a strong chance he's their starting quarterback next season, in my opinion. Where are we? Good point here from David Carlton Davis. A great fit for a pass coverage scheme Aaron Glenn prefers. Appreciate you, David D. Jimmy says, I'm just worried about Travis. There's been no news on his injury. I mean, I think Travis is able to be a third-string guy. He's supposed to be ready for OTAs. I think he's certainly capable of being a third-string guy next season. If not, I think they're going to draft someone anyways. Maybe you I don't know, but you don't give up a draft pick. I don't think you give up a draft pick for someone who's automatically not going to make your roster. Because I was going to say hold a competition in training camp for the third quarterback spot, but then Milton's just going to get it because why would you trade a draft capital for someone who's not going to play? I don't know. Joe, Connor Tyrod is our bridge until the 26th draft. End of story. I would love Tyrod as a bridge option, but you need someone back there else. You need someone, a veteran or a rookie back there as well, because I don't think you're getting 17 games out of Tyrod Taylor. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel, vote in our poll if you haven't already. 89% of you want us to do a draft party for the first round with a ton of guests. Like I said, please vote on that if you haven't already. Only 28 of you voted, 35 of you in the building on YouTube. So like I said, please vote if you haven't already. Jimmy Jets, an absolute legend, gives 50 channel memberships today. An absolute goat here on the program. Caden says, but we only have $20 million in cap room. How are we going to afford Carlton? I'm going to pull up the thing. There's so many cuts the Jets could make that free up so much cap room. Plus Devontae Adams, you open up $35 million in cap room if you cut him. So there's certainly a lot of ways where the Jets can afford Carlton Davis. Where did we go? Sorry, lost the comment here for a second. Good point here from Caden. Hope Travis doesn't turn into Bennett. You have to go with the mentality, though, that he's not going to play a snap in the NFL. You can't. You have to go with the mentality he's not going to play a snap in the NFL. The guy's coming off a broken leg. I don't know how much you can particularly expect out of someone like that, suffering that gruesome of an injury in college. I don't think you can expect anything out of that. I really don't think so. That's where I am right now. Like I said, appreciate you tuning in. Last chance to call into the show by using the pinned comment in the chat. And last chance to get your thoughts in here. Final thoughts here on the show. If you have any advice, throw it in the chat. If you want exclusive channel updates, daily Jets talk, join the Discord down below. Check out our merch store. Super fun stuff there. Appreciate you as always, Jimmy Jets. 50 freaking gifted memberships. First time in show history. An absolute goat. We'll end with this. Bearing any final comments? Joe, any way we could trade Devontae, get something for him, maybe a third? Not on his current contract. If you restructure him and trade him potentially, the problem is if you're going to restructure him, you might as well keep him. So bottom line, probably not. His contract's a mess right now. The only way you could trade him is if you restructure and then deal him. But like I said, if you're going to restructure, you might as well just keep him. David D coming in with some Lions cap insight. The Lions also need to exercise fifth-year options on Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams. Carlton Davis might be too expensive to retain. The way Jameson Williams played, like obviously he's been in the league for a few years, but this seems like it was his first real NFL season. It might have been in terms of obviously there was that injury that kept him sidelined for a while, all the suspensions he went through. But I think this is the first year where he really made a statement in the NFL as like a electrifying, speedy, incredible wide receiver. So that's my Lions insight for you, David. Appreciate you guys as always, Jimmy Jets. I know I've thanked you so many times, but I really can't. I can't thank you enough for 50 gifted memberships. We're gonna do. The guest tomorrow for tomorrow's show is TBD. We'll probably be on at 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like we have been, so somewhere between there. And then we're gonna do the raffle at the end of the show. So you have the tomorrow show. You have most of tomorrow's show to give memberships. That is your last chance. The Mangold jersey is now added into our raffle. That is your last chance to give memberships. And then anything after the raffle, boom, goes right into February. And those memberships right after the raffle count towards February. So stay tuned. If you gifted a membership, be sure to be in tomorrow. We're gonna you guys, if you guys win a prize, you have a week to claim it. If you don't claim it in a week, we're gonna redraw for another winner for that prize, and that's who will get it. I'm not waiting around. I'm not wasting prizes. So that's what we're doing here, and that'll be the plan with the raffle moving forward. Can't thank you guys enough. Like I said, I appreciate it. We'll wrap up this edition of NY Flight Jets Talk Thursday, January 30th, 2025. I'm your host, Connor Long, signing off here on this evening. JTS, Jets, Jets, Jets.